A warm welcome to Business Daily right here on Trust Television. I am Yusuf Akogu. Let's take the business top stories. Glad to have you back. Now we go to the stock market to give you highlights of the stock trading as it went down yesterday on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Indeed, the bullish run continues yesterday, 0.19% the market ended, and of course the volume of trade 449.283 million, value at 5.44 billion there in the days of 7,100 exchange hands among investors yesterday, and of course over 100 billion naira were added yesterday to the market capitalization. Of course the all-share index still way above 70,000 basis points there yesterday. About 138 basis points were added to the previous all-share index. Let's look at the top gaining equities. PZ gaining 10% yesterday to close at 22 naira per share. Of course, GlaxoSmithKline, one company that is set to leave Nigeria again. They are still strong, trading strong. Maybe they have changed their mind. Most likely, if they have not, maybe they will do that now, because they are actually doing very well on the bourse there. 9.93% in gain yesterday to close at 14 naira and 95 kobo. Darcom 9.52% gain to close at 23 kobo per share. That's what it did yesterday on the floor. Let's look at the top losing equities. NNFM losing 10% to close at 18 naira per share there. Of course, TIP also down 9.65% to close at 1 naira and 3 kobo. Of course, Royal X losing 9.26% to close at 49 kobo per share. Let's look at the activity chart. Of course, FBN, First Bank of Nigeria Holdings, leading the market movers yesterday with 52 million volume of shares. Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, the one you call CHIP PLC, also did 49.5 million volume of shares. And of course, Fidelity Bank did 42 million volume of shares at the close of business on Tuesday. Let's look at the sectorial performance. Of course, the banking sector is dormant. I mean, not much activities there yesterday as it closed flat there. Of course, the industrial sector 0.03%, a marginal gain, you will say. Consumer goods sector 0.31%, and of course, the oil and gas is down 0.27%. Apparently, investors in that segment of the market are busy taking credit. Of course, when you invest, you take some profit of your investment. Let's look at the insurance sector, 0.15%. The consumer goods sector, the highest gainer of yesterday. Of course, and the gains are actually marginal from what we saw yesterday, from yesterday trading. Let's look at the rest of Africa. Of course, it's red in Africa. From green yesterday, I mean, a table has turned to this in red. Apparently, profit taking is going on. Of course, it's end of the year. A lot of people are actually, taking a lot of selling of their investment for cash so that they can meet up some of their expenditures. GSE is down 2.35% in South Africa. Of course, in Ghana Stock Exchange is also down 0.46%, and in Nairobi Stock Exchange also down there 0.58%. 8%. So the highlight of the stock trading as it went down yesterday across markets on the continent of Africa. We'll take a very quick break now. When we come back, we'll go into our discussion. Don't go away.
It was never a consensus. We did all our best. You see, in politics, you give your contribution to the best of your ability.
If you want, I'll forward to you this statement. You go to this bank and verify.
But there are people who say not spending money is not a virtue in itself.
Let me finish.
But there's so much to be done.
Let me finish. Now, you don't allow me to explain myself.
The recent development shows abductions are now a factor of informants embedded in community.
It's not about the people of Katsina to say that, no, during my administration I was able to stop insecurity. No, it's about collective responsibility for all of us.
And what we should ask ourselves is not what has been seen, is the life better? Are there more people who are unemployed who are not become employed? Is the level of corruption has gone down? Is there inclusion? All those issues.
We're actually a gas country with associated oil. Our focus has always been on oil, that we have never paid attention, significant attention to gas.
To do it effectively, we need to have honest conversation with ourselves. Government needs to come down from its higher horse and communicate with the people and build trust.
There must be a solution. We cannot continue this way. They must come back to the table and agree. So whose child will do deny education? All these children that sit for jam, they want to go to higher institutions.
But just a short while ago you were saying that why bring 10 children when you cannot cater for them? So why bring more universities when you cannot cater for the existing?
Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Now we're going into our discussion, and today we are looking at, of course, the CNG initiative of the federal government. Recalls after the subsidy was removed on petroleum, quite a whole lot of options were actually put on the table by the federal government. One of it is the CNG option. And let's see how the federal government has done so far in that regard. I have with me in the studio Engineer Micheal Oluwagbemi, who is the Project Director, Presidential CNG Initiative. Glad to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Let's see the effort you've put in place so far. The president did make that promise in one of his broadcasts to Nigerians that these buses are going to be available. How much effort have you made so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on here. On July 31st, if you recall, the president addressed the nation on the palliative measures he was intended to put in place as a response to the fuel subsidy removal that was, of course, required by law, but implemented, of course, upon his ascent to the presidency on May 29, 2023. And in his speech, he had mentioned the implementation of the compressed natural gas, auto-gas conversion, and auto-gas program. The idea being that Nigeria had been, and I saw it in your rollout just as I was entering the studio, the NNPC GCEO mentioned that Nigeria is a gas province.
Absolutely.
With a little bit of associated oil. So it didn't make sense that Nigeria was burning gas equivalent of about $1.5 to $2 billion every year. It is the second largest gas flaring country in the world, second only to Russia, and sits on the largest gas reserves in Africa, and yet was importing and subsidizing dirty, expensive, and geopolitically exposed liquid petroleum products. PMS and AGO. And what he said was that his initiative will be designed to deliver cheaper transportation to the vast majority of Nigerians in order to ensure a better life for them. Transportation cost is about 16% an average family or an average household of their cost. And if we remove right? It ranks second only to food. So if we remove the transportation cost and make it much cheaper, it also impacts the food cost.
Certainly.
Because food that comes to our market also utilize trucks and vehicles to do so. So you can see that touching transportation inflation and trying to keep the cost of transportation low just makes sense from an absolute point of view. And doing so also will help enhance the economy and ensure a better standard of living for all Nigerians. And so the president, in doing so, decided to develop this program. And on August 17, on his official page, announced the formation of the presidential CNG initiative, of which I'm a program director and a chief executive. And since then, there's been intense planning going on what the shape and form of that program would look like. Even though part of it was going to be funded with the palliative funding.
Maybe you can let us into the form and the processes that you are undertaking so far.
Absolutely. So even though the president was very clear that the initial down payment on this was going to come from the palliative funding, he did not want these to be just a touch and go situation, just like some programs that we've had in the past, where the government just does a perfunctory genuflection to helping to alleviate the suffering of the masses when it comes to transportation cost. He wanted a full and whole energy transition for the mass transit sector to move it from dependence on dirty and expensive PMS and diesel to cheaper, cleaner, safer, and more reliable CNG, which Nigeria has in abundance. And so the PCNGI was envisioned not as a pilot or some kind of quick palliative that starts and then shuts down, but rather a long-lasting program. And that was the planning that had taken place between August and October, when then in October 1st, he announced in his Independence Day speech that the CNG program was now good to go after about 2 months of planning. And he also approved the fast-track procurement, which will enable the initial acquisition of 55,000 conversion kits that will allow Nigeria to quickly bring 55,000 vehicles into the CNG fleet or CNG autogas sector, which is almost like multiplying it with the existing number by 10. And that allows, of course, investors to begin to invest, since they're not going to have customers that will be buying gas at their different refueling stations. And then we allow those people even behind them at the wellhead to invest in gathering gas and processing gas to create CNG, that's compressed natural gas. In addition to this, he's also asked us to have a program and develop a program that will bring in about 11,500 CNG fuel platforms, in addition to the 55,000 conversion kits. So you can see that you'll be going very close to about 62 to 70,000 new CNG vehicles, or either from tricycle to buses, and of course passenger vehicle and ride shares, that will immediately be able to benefit under the initial phase of this program.
But if you look at
March of next year.
Okay, if you look at these numbers and compared to the fleet of vehicles that we have in the PMS, it's still a very small number. So what's the timeline that you have drawn up as the lead officer of this program to ensure that we have quite a whole lot, enough to be able to cater for everybody?
Yeah, so we do not think that in the short term all PMS vehicles or diesel vehicles are going to disappear. Rather, our program is intended to very quickly create a market for what we call the natural gas vehicles in Nigeria. We are here to catalyze, we're here to work with the private sector, but even more so, we're here to offer a cheaper, cleaner, safer, more reliable option for the Nigerian people. More importantly is the fact that the numbers I've given you is just for the short term, between now and March next year.
Okay.
During the period of the palliative, of course, because we are using and leveraging palliative funding. Over the long term, the president has set for us a goal of converting 1 million vehicles to CNG by year 2027. And those 1 million vehicles will definitely be taking gas of anything from 25 to 50 mm scuff. and creating jobs in the gas sector, and also requiring about 1,000 conversion workshops. If we bring in 1 million vehicles to be converted in different conversion workshops in the country, we'll be creating close to 25,000 new jobs for technicians that also will be working on this. So that is the long-term plan, and there is a funding plan because it will not just be fully or only 100% funded by government. There's also going to be significant role, even the most significant role, to be played by the private sector, private investors, development funding partners, including private equity as well as development banks across the world that are very interested in not just Nigeria's commitment to create jobs and to develop our economy, but they're also interested in helping Nigeria achieve the national determined commitments with respect to the Paris Climate Change Accord, which also requires that we clean up our emissions. And as you know, CNG gives 95% less emissions than PMS. And certainly we want to have cleaner air for our children, our grandchildren, and leave our environment a better place. And Nigeria sits on a payload of gas that will last us for 97 years. And so what the president is saying, that all of these commitments we've had, the NDC commitment, the national gas policy, the national transportation policy that actually said by year 2024, Nigeria is not supposed to register any new commercial vehicle that is on PMS or diesel, but rather every new vehicle will have to be registered as a gas vehicle. So they have to be gas vehicles for them to be registered. Yes, so he's saying that all of these commitments, all of these policies we've been talking about, all of these things that we said we will do, now we need to do them. And that is what the PCNGI is about. And the PCNGI is, like I said, is not replacing the private sector. Nigeria is primarily a private sector driven economy. The government is just 5% of the economy. And we expect the private sector already, they're making commitment. Just this morning, the private sector partner already made commitment of 10 MRUs, mobile refueling units of CNG to the country. It's already purchasing and bringing in about $2.5 million worth of this product into the country in order to ensure that we begin to have CNG infrastructure across Nigeria. And so these are one of many things that we're doing, of course, to facilitate private sector investment. The government has also committed through the chairman of the steering committee, Mr. Zak Adeliji, who is also the chairman of the FRS, that we're going to give tax waivers in terms of VAT waivers to folks that are going to invest in the sector. In addition to that, IDEC, that's the duty waiver, is also going to be processed for them. So the government is serious. We are putting together a series of palliatives, a series of intense incentives. We are also facilitating investment, and we are also enabling infrastructure to ensure that we deliver a program that Nigerians can be proud of, such that in 4 years' time, we will to look back and say that we've been able to move the country to a just energy transition program.
Interesting. Like you mentioned, you're bringing in about 11,500 CNG vehicles into Nigeria. All of these vehicles are going to be, imported, right?
No. We are working with the private sector, like I said. The president is determined to create local jobs. Our current capacity for vehicle production in the country is about 14,000 vehicles a year, which is quite abysmal for a country that requires about 720,000 vehicles in a year. So what we are doing is we are working with our local assemblers, folks that are already in the business of assembling vehicles, to retool their line to now assemble these CNG vehicles in Nigeria. So those 11,500 vehicles, which include buses and tricycles, will be assembled in Nigeria. They will come in as completely knocked down CKDs, and the assembly as well as the fixtures and the programming and all of those good stuff will be done here in Nigeria. So we're going to create quite significant good jobs in the process of implementing this program starting immediately, since the procurement has now been fast-tracked and approved.
All right. Let's look at for Nigerians that are already driving PMS vehicle and want to convert their vehicle to CNG. What processes do they have to follow to ensure that this is done?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that the sector is also operating in compliance with international standards to prevent any incident. Even though CNG by itself is actually the safest form of land transportation, because natural gas is the ignition point, the flash point for natural gas is very high, and it dissipates upon contact with air very quickly, since it's much, much lighter than air. So it's very difficult to ignite natural gas. And in addition to the fact that it's concealed in an extruded cylinder, that is no welding at all, unlike your LPG. By the way, there's a difference between LPG and CNG. LPG is a derivative of associated petroleum, it's propane and butane, while CNG is natural gas and comes directly and of course naturally, and is made primarily of ethane and methane. it's safe, very, very safe. And as a result of that, we know that CNG is a safe form of transportation. When your PMS vehicles get into accidents, it immediately bursts into flame. The same cannot be said about CNG vehicles. However, the problem and potential issues lies in the conversion. If a vehicle has already been certified in the factory as a PMS vehicle, when you're converting it and you're not doing the conversion under supervision and under some kind of accreditation and safety reliability, you run the danger of, number one, ensuring that the car becomes less reliable than it used to be. And number two, you also run the danger that there will be leakages and issues in terms of the parts that are utilized for compressed natural gas conversion. So what we are going to do is that we are creating a system that will create a uniform standard for natural gas vehicle conversion in Nigeria. It will be rolled out in the next 60 to 90 days. That will ensure that organizations or entities that want to convert vehicles are in part of an accredited system to also ensure the safety, reliability, and traceability of conversions that are done. This will, number one, of course, in addition to ensuring the safety and reliability, we also ensure the interoperability of the sector. What do we mean? Right now, if you do conversions in some certain organizations, other organizations will refuse to refill the CNG for you because they cannot vouch for the safety of what was done in the other organization. But by the time we have a uniform safety standard and everybody comes on board, then we'll be able to roll out this program such that if you do your conversion in, say, a Waivers, if you go to a NIPCO, you can get your gas filled. So there's no clashes and there are no issues and no cartels or monopolies are formed. In the CNG
so there's going to be special locations for conversion of these vehicles.
Absolutely, there will be accredited locations. Anybody should be able to get the accreditation provided they follow the law and guidelines and standards that will be set up by the interagency working group that is currently working on this. And I believe this should be rolled out in the next 60 to 90 days. Upon this, you'll be able to go to our website, you'll be able to access a app where you'll be able to identify the conversion workshops that are accredited to ensure that this is interoperable. And you can go in on our website and also sign up for a voucher. And you can schedule the time within a specific period of time to go get your vehicle converted. And then you should be able to get those conversion done at those locations upon accreditation.
Okay, what about the cost implications of all of these things? I want to convert my PMS vehicle, for instance, to CNG. How much would that cost me?
Yeah, so today that cost varies. It varies from about 300,000 naira to 550,000 naira or 650,000 naira, depending on the
make of the vehicle?
The make of the vehicle,
or the value?
The conversion kits that will be used, the make of the vehicle primarily. And also especially the engine type. If it's a 6-valve, of course it's more expensive than a 4-valve. If it's an 8-valve, it's more expensive than a 6-valve. And all of that stuff. And of course, some of the kits are made in Europe, so others are made in the US, some are made in China, others are made in India for now. We hope eventually to have these kits made in Nigeria. So these conversion kits and cylinders, once they start making them in Nigeria, then it's going to be much cheaper for us to do. So that is the variation of the cost today. We are open and are working on our program to ensure that there's zero out-of-pocket costs for Nigerians once we launch our program to the wide variety of Nigerians. What do we mean by this? Number one, the government is going to look at providing significant discount on the kits itself to the accredited conversion workshops. So to ensure that is the direct palliative, this is the palliative component of this work. But in addition to that, we also require you to contribute your own. But you do not have to come out of pocket for that. So what you can do is, because this fuel is currently selling, that's CNG, between 230 naira and 300 naira per kg.
Is that not a subsidy?
No, it's not a subsidy. Which one is a subsidy?
I mean, when if I want to convert my vehicle and then the government is paying maybe part of the money.
Yeah, that's an incentive. It's not a subsidy because once you install your kit, it's your kit. I mean, it's not. We are not. You are not paying you anything after that. You're just going. You are getting this kit at a discount. And the idea is to lower the cost, of course, because it's imported. The government is bearing that cost right now. As soon as it's manufactured in Nigeria, then we don't have to bear that cost of sharing that cost with you. But government makes money from you converting. How do we make money? Because this gas currently is being flared. And every gas in Nigeria is vested on the federal government of Nigeria and the NNPC under the PIA. So for us converting the gas and making that gas available as CNG to you, and you buy the gas at the pump, Nigerian government is making money. So we can share some of that upside with you. And moreover, we just took away your fuel subsidy, so we're willing to give back some to you.
Absolutely.
So this is a palliative there. So at the end of the day, we will share the cost with the Nigerian people. And the balance of it will still not have to come from their pocket, hopefully, if we are able to implement this program the way we see fit, such that they can pay slowly, especially through surcharges to the CNG that they are actually purchasing. The CNG as of today is 40 to 50% cheaper than PMS and diesel, and even much more cheaper than diesel, as you know. As you can imagine, it is today selling for 1,300. If you go to any of the CNG stations, refueling stations today in Abuja or in Benin or Lokoja or in Lagos, you'll be buying fuel for between 230 naira and 300 naira per kg equivalent. So that is significant saving to 630 naira. So if we add 50 naira to 100 naira for you to pay off the kit in 3 months, I think that's a good deal for Nigerian people.
All right. As we wrap up now, let's say in 60 seconds now, what do you have to say to Nigerians who are actually confusing the CNG with LNG?
Well, I think the bigger confusion is with LPG, right? LNG. There are two primarily types of gases: the one that occurs naturally, and the one that we strip or we refine and process, which is LPG, and occurs in association with petroleum. That's liquid petroleum. CNG occurs naturally, or NG. NG occurs naturally. That's natural gas. That's why it's called natural gas. And then there's petroleum gas, natural gas, methane, ethane. LPG or petroleum gas, butane, propane, right? The NG can be either liquefied or compressed. And when it is liquefied, it's because it's being transported over a long distance, exported to Europe.
Okay, the process of compressing them or converting them is different.
It's different. So there's the LNG is just liquefied. The compressed natural gas is not liquefied. It's still gas. It's just compressed so that it can be easily moved, and as well it can carry more energy. So the LNG and the CNG are both NGs. It's just that they are in different forms. The one that you use, however, to cook is PG. That is a different type of gas. That is a derivative of the petroleum either production or refinement process, and that's how you get LPG. And that's the one that you use in your home for cooking gas, which is butane, and that's the one that everybody associated with, you know, the issues around that one. And it's not what we are talking about here. We are talking about the natural gas, safe, reliable, cheap, and clean.
All right. I must thank you, Engineer Micheal Oluwagbemi, the Programme Director and, of course, Chief Executive Officer of Presidential CNG Initiative. I must thank you for your time on Business Daily.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate the contribution, indeed.
Thank you.
All right. With that is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogu.